Hey all, it's Matt. I thought I'd give a quick overview of my PV and battery system. So let's jump straight in. So obviously, starting at the top, we have my solar panels. I have 12 410 watt all black panels. They are south facing, the tiny bit west facing, just 10 degrees off south. That gives me a total of 4.92 kilowatt P. So this is the equipment I have installed. Obviously the 12 panels, they feed into a 5 kilowatt Solis PV string inverter. And then I've got the GivEnergy all-in-one battery and gateway system feeding into the house. So the question is, why did I choose the all-in-one over the other systems? And looking at some quick diagrams, I'll explain why. Obviously, the first thing you look at is what was my house like before I had PV, and it was a very bog standard setup where obviously you've got the incoming supply comes in via in my case, I think I've got a 80 amp fuse, goes into my smart meter. I then had a isolation switch fitted for free from Octopus Energy. That makes life a lot easier. So if anybody is out there on Octopus, you can phone them up and get them to fit it for free. I know other companies do charge. In fact, some of them charge up to £150 to get it fitted. So it might actually be a case of, switching your supply to Octopus, even for a short term. Get them to fit the isolation switch and then swap out again. But with the current markets, I would say actually staying with Octopus is probably one of the better options. And if you want to use my code, I'll pop it up in the corner. Obviously, one of the main issues, obviously, without any sort of solar or battery is, should there be a power cut, obviously the whole house goes and you lose everything, all the power. Now, one of the most common installs at the moment, I would say, is the hybrid install. Now, this does have some benefits over the system I've got in the sense that obviously you've got DC power being generated by your solar panels, and that DC power is passed directly to the battery without any loss of doing an AC-DC conversion. Obviously, this then either hooks into your consumer unit or it might go into like a Henley block in your meter cupboard. But again, one of the big issues is should you have a power cut, your house goes offline along with everything in it. Now you can get a EPS socket installed, but they're generally quite low power. So you might be able to, obviously get a fridge or freezer hooked up to it if you need to be, or maybe even your lighting circuit. But generally, it's very restrictive about what you can have put onto it due to the power the hybrids can output. However, compared to the all-in-one, okay, this is a bit more complicated. So basically, the gateway sits in between the isolation switch and the consumer unit. The power for the PV gets fed directly into it, along with the battery connection. You can also have a EV charger installed into the gateway as well, and you can either choose to be load side or meter side, but I don't have that yet. Obviously, like I was saying, the downside to this is obviously the power from the solar panels, which is DC, gets converted to AC, gets fed through the gateway system back to the all-in-one system, which then has its own inverter, which will convert it back to DC before it charges up the batteries. And that can probably add a 4 to 5% reduction in power, which is small but could be noticeable. However, the main benefit of having this system is, should you have a power cut, the gateway is classed as a UPS, uninterruptible power supply, so it will disconnect the incoming feed in under 20 milliseconds. But because the battery, the house, and the solar are all connected via the gateway, everything stays up and works. And that is the big selling point for me. I would struggle to explain to my wife why, if I bought a hybrid system, spending thousands of pounds, if it was a sunny day and the battery is charged and there's a power cut, it'd be hard to explain why the house was offline. At least with this system, which, okay, it might cost a couple of £1,000 more, it doesn't. Everything carries on working. You wouldn't even notice the power had gone off. So if we actually look at a few pictures, this is all installed in my garage. Because of some space constraints, the solar PV inverter is actually installed on the opposite wall to the gateway and the all-in-one battery. So you can see the wires going into the gateway at the top left there. You've got the tails coming in from the meter, which is on the other side of this wall in a little box. And that obviously feeds up into the consumer unit in the top right. And then obviously you've got connections to the all-in-one battery going down as well. I've hardwired a Ethernet connection into both the gateway and into the battery. Now getting a wire out to this location is actually quite difficult, just where it is. So I've actually just used a power line adapter. They're obviously not great speed-wise, but in terms of reliability, I've never had any issues, and obviously it's not a huge data transfer going across these devices, so even a bog standard cheap one is more than enough to actually have enough bandwidth to run it. I've also got a Harvi link there, if you can see. That obviously connects to my Eddi, which, even though I don't use it anymore because of the pricing, monitors the system. So it's got 3 CT clamps, one around the incoming live connection, one around the battery connection, and one around the PV wire. And that all feeds back into the system, so I can monitor that as well. I've also got that little Octopus, I think it's Octopus Home dongle. That connects into the smart meter and transmits live smart meter data to Octopus. It updates once every about 10 seconds, which is obviously a lot better than most of the systems where you might only get once every half an hour. And next, I will give a quick little live tour. So this is a quick overview of my system. The batteries and gateway are on this side of the garage. The solar comes in, it's the very top black wire comes in, and because of space, the PV inverter is on this side. So this is a Solis 5 kilowatt. Obviously it's got DC breaker, AC breaker. That obviously comes in, goes around, comes out again. That goes again on that bottom wire all the way back again, and that goes directly into the gateway. So I just zoom out a bit. So you've got the meter tails going into the gateway. They go up to the right, up into the consumer unit, and then you've got the all-in-one battery below.